Hey guys, welcome to Rhetoric Rabbit Hole. I got Aidan and Jordan with me today.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, guys. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
She just farted, by the
Nice.
way.
That's our other guest today.
That's our cue, yeah, Gypsy the dog.
So, I ain't trying to waste y'all's time, so let's just get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about, you guys know what a fairy circle is?
I'm not aware of what a fairy circle is.
Is that the little mushrooms?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's when mushrooms grow in a circle.
I do know what this is. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is like a thing, like that other people are experiencing or not. But like the other day, my roommate was like, dude, I just saw 2 fairy circles like in the same day. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. And then I got online and like I was just scrolling through Facebook and this dude on my Facebook is like, hey, there are fairy circles everywhere. It's like, have you guys seen this? And in the comments, people are like, yeah, I've been seeing these everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was yesterday I saw one. And I don't know, like I haven't heard about this like on the news or anything. This is just like people
popped up.
Luckily
Yeah.
informed, yeah.
Yeah, like people have been telling me they've been seeing these, and it's the weirdest thing because like, I mean, maybe there's some scientists and someone who knows why they do that, but you guys have seen them, right? Like
There's one in my neighbor's yard.
Really?
Within the past week,
Like it just popped up?
Well, we have one mushroom in our backyard. It's just by itself. And I've been watching it to make sure she doesn't eat it. And I was out checking the mail the other day, and there's one in our neighbor's yard between our house and theirs. And that's weird to say that.
I wonder, like, that's so weird that they'll grow like that sometimes.
I don't know what causes that.
Yeah.
A circle.
Yeah. What's with that?
I don't know if it might be like a root structure.
Have you guys ever heard of a guy named Paul Stamets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mushroom Hat Paul.
Yeah, Mushroom Hat Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got some really good lectures, and he kind of thinks that like mushrooms are a form of consciousness.
Mhm.
Like they are taking conscious action.
Mhm.
And there was like some experiment that they did where like they put this form of mycelium in like a structure to where it was looking at like Tokyo or something,
Yeah.
like a map of like some place, some city. And the mycelium found a more efficient route than what the subway system was.
Mhm.
Yeah, in there.
Yeah, I saw where he was like, I'm not going to say it in the exact words because I'll butcher that if I say I'm going to quote it. But he was basically saying it's pretty ignorant of us to assume that we're the only self-aware thing on the planet when we've got probably the most basic yet complex living thing is the fungi system,
Yeah.
like he was talking about.
Very interesting stuff there.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude.
So, you have a ghost hunting channel.
I do. Yes, I do.
And we'll put description or links in the bottom below if you want to check out Aidan's ghost hunting channel.
SpiritboyS Paranormal.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, it's me and it's usually me and 2 of my buddies that I work with. Shout out to Logan and Tyler. And we're very new. We don't have a whole lot of professional experience in this, but we've all 3 been interested in it for years. Me and Tyler both growing up, I remember my first experience, I couldn't have been much older than 4. And the only thing I remember around that age is like having a go-kart and learning to tie my shoes. But I remember my first experience, and he grew up in a house too. And we're actually going to go do that house soon. That's one of our next places that we're going is the house we grew up in. But yeah, we've got a wild group.
I was actually gonna ask you, like, because obviously if you're doing that, that's something that's been on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you mind getting into those experiences?
Oh no, I don't mind.
What was that first one like for you?
The first one's actually really cool. It's the coolest one that's ever happened to me because I shouldn't be able to remember it like I do. And anybody that studies the brain or people's memory, even memory is such a wild thing, but your memory lies to you because it remembers things on how you felt and not always how it actually happened. You know, like if you remember a car wreck, you're not going to remember everything that happened from the time you wrecked to the time you got out of the car because your brain's working on so many different levels. So I didn't trust this memory until I was right out of high school, I think. So, but my mom remembers it very vividly. So someone in my family had died, and I think he was my uncle on my mom's side, or something like that. But he had died, and I was too young to go. I didn't go to the funeral or visitation. I didn't go to attend anything. I stayed home with my great grandparents who lived across the street, and they went, had the whole thing, and then afterwards, after he was buried, my grandmother took me to his headstone, which we lived. That's another thing. We lived like 200 yards from the graveyard at the time, and it's still in Lynchburg, a big graveyard in the middle of Lynchburg. And we lived right down the street, so my grandmother walked me up there, and we put a rose in his grave, and it had to have been right after the funeral.
How old were you?
I couldn't have been much older than 4. Because I remember my sister being born, but I don't know how old. I know she was in a what do you call it, baby, the bed.
Cradle.
Well, cradle. Why are we all on blank on cradle?
We all blank on cradle.
I wanted to say casket, but I was like, that's not right. But I know she was in her cradle, and we went up there, put the rose on his grave, and that's really, I don't know how long after that this happened. But I remember waking up in my room, and I was sleeping between my mom and my stepdad, and I can tell you what side of the bed they were on. Is how vivid this is. My mom was to my left, stepdad was to the
I
right.
remember it so crazy.
I was in between them.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what woke me up, but in between the bed, like my sister's cradle was across the room from the foot of the bed, and in between the bed and the cradle, he was just standing there. And it sounds kind of cheesy, and if you look, I'm goosebumped up. It sounds kind of cheesy, but he was glowing, and that sounds so cheesy to people. If you've never had an experience, it's so rare to see an actual apparition. People think that it's something that, oh, if you're into ghosts, you're sick. No, this is rare. It doesn't happen a lot, and I don't know the science behind it. I don't claim to know the science behind it. But he was glowing, and he was standing there. And I remember the suit that he was wearing, and he was holding a rose, and I remember him smiling at me. I don't remember him saying anything, and I don't remember freaking out on my end. And I remember him waving or something, and then just walking out of the room. And for a long time, I thought that was a dream that I had. And I just, up until high school. And one day, I remember I was like a sophomore, or a junior or senior in high school, and I came to my mom, and I was like, do you remember this crazy dream that I had where I was talking to somebody or something, that somebody was in our room, like a ghost or something in our room? And my mom, and Jordan's met my mom was almost crying. She spun around, she was washing dishes, and she was like, I was hoping that you'd forgotten about that. She was like, that scarred me when you were a kid. She was like, you told me that, and I don't remember his name. She said his name. She said, you told me that so-and-so was in our room and that he was holding a rose. And it was exactly how I remembered it. How I thought about it literally almost every day, just because it was one of those memories that always popped in my head. And I didn't think much of it. And when she got freaked out, made me realize that, hey, I actually held on to this memory better than I thought. And I didn't go to his funeral. I didn't know what he was buried in. And he was buried in the clothes that I had saw him in, which they told me later on that I had matched it up. And I had no, because I didn't go to that funeral. And since then, I didn't have a lot happen. That I remember, I didn't have a lot happen. That was like the big thing in my life. I was like, this has to be real.
It seems to be early development.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
I'm not going to say names here, but just for but somebody's daughter that I know, this person had a miscarriage before their daughter was born. And this daughter came to her asking for a new sister because her other sister had died, and her sister wants her to have a new baby sister. And I know this person, and that was not handled very well. I mean, it was very emotional, is what I'm saying. Like that was, and those kids do not have any idea that happened. Like, you're not going to tell a 3-year-old kid that, hey, your other sister, she was a miscarriage. Like, that's just not something you say. And I know she didn't say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was, and I know them personally.
Children have a connection.
I think it's because the brain is so open still. It's not, we haven't learned to block stuff out yet. It's kind of like whenever you like
psychedelics.
Yeah, when you take psychedelics, gateways
turns you into a baby again.
Gateways open that you're blind to whenever you're conscious now, and you see things that you're not normally aware of. And I think that you can get yourself in that headspace, which is why people are sometimes able to see things.
Right.
Like when I'm ghost hunting, I think it's 3, unless I'm forgetting one. The first night we did it, my partner, me and Logan, we saw one. It walked up to our truck when we were done. I was on the phone with Jordan when it happened. They walked up to the truck. You heard the popping of the gravel and everything, and they walked up to our truck. And they were because I think they were so excited that somebody was there talking to them that night.
Dude, Yes. So we were both raised like really religious. And when I got out of that, I think when, everyone has a different reaction when you read something like that. And my reaction was I got really heavily into the occult. I wanted to see if there was anything out there because Christianity had left a bad taste in my mouth. So I was like borderline atheist. And so I went seeking out some kind of experience.
Exactly.
So at this point in my life, I've fucked with a lot of spirits. I've done a lot of spirit work with Ouija boards and things like that. But I've yet to ever see a physical or a visual manifestation.
It's rare.
It's very rare. Jordan, do you remember when you were living in Birmingham? You saw an apparition.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
You were a kid also, yeah.
Yeah, I was extremely young. On the borderline of, I don't remember exactly how old I was. But it was on the borderline of me not remembering anything else around that time. So
but that sticks out to you.
That particular event does stick out to me.
Same with your story.
I'd say I can base my age kind of off where we're living because we moved around a little bit. So I know from like ages this to this, I was in this house. And I know at that time, we didn't live there much past me in kindergarten or so.
It's an interesting thing. Describe that experience.
Yeah, so I don't remember exactly what was going on, but I think maybe like my brother was home. And I think my parents were gone. They were maybe out to eat or something like that. Or asleep maybe even. It was at night. And I was sleeping in my room. And I got up and I got out of bed and I walked into the living room. And in this house that we used to live in, there were like these huge windows, like windows at the top, and then these two huge windows right here, and like a glass door that's also clear. So I mean, you can see out all of this area. And it's at nighttime and the living room lights are on. So all I'm seeing when I look in the mirror is a reflection of the rest of the room and what's behind me. And, so I remember always being scared of mirrors after this happened. Not mirrors, but windows at night, because it's also a reflection.
Also, you're inside also.
You are inside of it.
If you see something outside of a window, that tells you that you don't have really anywhere to go. Like if you look in a window, you're like, oh, I have all this like space behind me.
I can get gone,
into the woods.
Yeah.
But if you're inside and you see someone looking
feel trapped.
at you, yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail. Go ahead.
No, not at all. That's important input. So I walked over next to the sofa and I was looking out of the door. And I remember, and it's the weirdest thing because initially I wasn't scared by it. Initially it was just something that had happened. The fear came later in me looking back on what had happened. But I looked out of the door and there was like this charcoal black figure that was standing there. And he had like these purple overalls on. And he just kind of like stood at the door, like looking through the door, and he looked at me. And I don't really remember much after that, but what makes it super strange is about when I was I would say 12 or 13 years old, my parents were building a new house. And I was alone for the night. My dad had left. He was supposed to be getting back later that night, probably about 2 or 3 in the morning. It was just my mom home. And we were just still moving into the house and everything. So my bed was like on the floor and I didn't have much. I had like a little TV, but no furniture in there or anything. And I went into my bathroom to brush my teeth for night. And I went to go brush my teeth and I was brushing them. And I looked up and in the mirror, I saw the reflection of this same thing that I saw when I was a kid.
Really?
And as soon as it happened, I was probably about 12 or 13. And
after you guys moved to Fayetteville?
After we moved to, we were in Fayetteville when this happened.
Okay, you were in the apartment.
In the new house. So the house, not the apartment, but we were actually in the house. Okay. So as soon as I saw it behind me, it was like out of my bathroom and back towards into my room a little bit. And I just immediately like turned around to look, and of course it wasn't there. and it like shook me, like it shattered me a little bit, and I was just anxious. I was shaking. I remember brushing my teeth, and I never took my eyes off the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I went to go wash my mouth out, I got like a cup and I filled the cup up with water, and I never took my eyes off of this section of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I was like hyper focused on it to make sure I didn't let my guard down again.
Right.
And a little bit later that night, I had finally calmed down. So I went to bed, and I heard the front door open, and it closed. And I felt like this like sudden sense of relief because my father had came home.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the anxiety had left me and everything. I was just completely okay. And I don't know why that made me feel so okay, but my father was there, so I felt safe. And I woke up the next morning, and I was like walking around the house and everything. And I needed to go talk to my dad, so I went to go talk to him. And it ended up that he wasn't there. He didn't get home that night. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was just my mom there. Now, granted, it could have been my mom just opening the door.
Yeah.
But you thought
very
it was your dad,
strange.
which gave you some relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a strange tricking thing that had happened in my brain.
Yeah. Because that's what your dad was to you, is like that. I mean, it's your father, so.
Yeah, and I don't here's the thing is I don't know if I'll ever even be able to see that again or experience it. The first time when I was a kid, it wasn't that scary. And then after the second time that it happened, it became very
As a kid, though, you didn't know to be scared of it. Like, but there's something cool that happens. I say cool. That's a really bad word for it. But there's something that happens in your brain. There's a moment when you say, oh, I think I just saw something at the end of my hallway. But you're like, that could have been any number of things playing a trick on my eye.
Right.
But something clicks in your brain when you actually see something. Your brain actually picks that up and says, no, that's not.
Yeah.
You saw something.
When you can clarify it is the difference.
It's like your brain knows how to rationalize that differently. And like that shadow we saw that night on the phone with you, I mean, if you want to say it, that could have been like the shadow of me. Well, although we were in pitch dark, but I could have said that's the shadow of me off the moonlight. But no, that was a distinct figure walking around the front of the truck. You know, that your brain knows and says that's not right.
Was that a personal experience, or did the other people with you see that?
It was me and one other person he's coming and going from the team because he's doing a lot of things in his life right now. But yeah, he saw it too. Because like I said, I was on the phone with Jordan, and we both yelled on the phone when that happened. And Jordan was on speakerphone, and it was a kind of a crazy moment. And we saw one other there, but that other one was very fast. I almost don't even like talking about it because I can't say, hey, I saw something, but I know that I saw something there.
Yeah.
It was peeking over my shoulder. Like I saw like the side of him peeking over my shoulder, watching my camera on playback. And we were looking at photos that we had taken, and he was over my shoulder, but I didn't see like the body.
Whoa.
But something was like looking like, let me see what you got. But that's the reason I don't talk about it, because I can't say, hey, I saw something, even though I know. I
think any of these experiences, like someone somewhere is going to be like, oh, well, I mean, it could have been a scheduled episode. And that's true. It could be, but like, what's interesting is the significance to you at that moment.
Because your body is the best out of all the crap we can go buy that helps us. We use EMF, all kinds of stuff that helps us pick stuff. Your body is the single best tool, but the problem with that is it's also the hardest one to prove. Mm-hmm. And goosebumps, like from earlier, like I can show you, doesn't mean shit. Like we can walk under an air vent, you know what I'm saying?
It's not proof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll say that it may be controversial, but I think that the belief in the paranormal is far more taboo than people fighting religion nowadays.
Okay.
It's more accepted to not believe in religion.
Yes.
And people that believe in the paranormal are looked at like, okay, I don't, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And that makes me upset because I've done this to people at work. I've taken people at work that are non-believers, and I can tell you about these later because I don't want to say their names, but I've taken them up there and I've let them hold the spirit box and let them ask questions, and they will get hard answers to their questions. And I let one shake somebody's hand one time.
Spirit box?
Yeah, it's AM FM radio is all it is, and it swaps through channels really fast. So the problem with that is people say, well, it's just picking up on radio.
Okay.
So I took the antenna out of it. There's no antenna connection in the red thing at all. I took it completely apart.
You gotta show me this sometime.
I've got it. It's usually in my car, but it's not today. It's at my house. But
in the future.
Oh, I'll show it to you. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I've got videos of it on our YouTube. Selfless plug again.
Hey,
SpiritboyS Paranormal.
Links in the description below.
Yeah. The first video on our YouTube is one that I almost didn't want to put up. It was the first night that we had got this. It was the night that we saw that figure walking. I went to go talk to my grandpa. And I was like, we got it in the mail that day. I was like, hey, we're going tonight. Like, I don't care. We're going to go tonight. And we went up there. I turned it on, walked right up to his grave, and it was instant back and forth conversation. And I'm crying in the video. That's why I was hesitant to put it up. But I mean, it's raw emotion, and I don't care. Like it is.
I think that's one of the things that makes it significant, though.
It shook
it's
me.
The emotion.
Well, because I heard his voice.
Yeah.
And there aren't many people that I'm friends with that know what he sounded like, because he passed away in 2015. At the time, like a lot of older people at Jack where I work know what he sounded like, but my friends didn't. Well, I took that video and showed it to my mom, and because he has stuck around with my mom a lot, to the point where it's almost annoying for my mom. Like, she loves him still, obviously, but he's messed their house up a little bit. Like, when he's mad, he still gets in a bad mood. And again, to anybody that doesn't believe, that's fine. But my mom, who is a very big Christian, will tell you that he is in her house a lot. And I've witnessed her phone get thrown off of a table before by nobody. And she'll say, "Daddy, stop it." And it won't happen again.
I think you touched on something I wanted to talk about a little bit more. People don't take this seriously. It's very frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big part of that is the media, like the movies surrounding the subject, like The Conjuring, Insidious, all these things.
Paranormal Activity,
so fucking over the top.
Yeah, people want to believe that. If they do believe, they're like, that's a demon, and you can't mess it. I'm like, man, I'm not saying that demons aren't real, because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not exactly religious, but I am very spiritual.
That's the way to be.
Yeah. You don't need to pick one dogma and roll with it, and just keep an open mind. But in saying that, I don't discount the existence of demons at all, or something to that extent, something that is in the paranormal realm that can harm you. I'm not saying that doesn't exist at all, but what I am saying is that 99 times out of 100, you're not dealing with anything like that you're going to be dealing with somebody that is stuck, because I've been told by them that they're stuck. I asked one, we were talking about religion to them one night, and one of them came through and said they're Baptist. And one of my friends who was a skeptic said, if you're Baptist, then why are you still here? And she said, I'm stuck.
Shit.
And that was at that same graveyard. That's the most active place I've been, is that graveyard.
Not Baptist enough.
Hell yeah.
So, okay, we were talking about how this is something that resonates with children and people who take psychedelics. Because that puts you in a childlike mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which gets into something you and I were talking about the other night. You described... it was, I want you to explain it, actually. You're talking about a cave with snakes.
Yeah.
Lay that out for people watching.
So pretty much there's like this thing that I think is important. And it's important in a lot of areas in your life. And of course, people do it all the time and they don't recognize that they do it. And usually when they do it, it's extremely successful, because they realize that they're dropping a lot of things, that unnecessary baggage. So pretty much like the idea would just be like, so if you have knowledge on one hand, you can have a lot of good things, but within that you can misinterpret knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get wrong knowledge. You get bad knowledge.
You can't learn anything if you already think you know everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, if you've already, and that's kind of the issue with belief, too, is because when you believe something, you deny yourself the ability to know or believe anything else.
It leaves no room for new knowledge.
And it nullifies the rest of knowing, because you already know, and in your head you block it off. So
Jordan gave me this parable to sort of illustrate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the parable would be like, if we're talking about knowledge, then there could be something the opposite that we could call like the seeking of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
So the seeking to unlearn things, not necessarily good or bad, you're just seeking to unlearn the things that you have learned up to this point. So it could be put in a parable like this, like you have a baby and the baby goes into a pit of snakes. And a day later, the baby comes out and the baby is an old man. And in one day, he's lived an age of like 85 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's old and decrepit. He can barely walk. And so he comes out of the cave and he makes himself into a baby again. He turns back into an infant and goes back out into the world
To find another
to
snake.
find another snake cave, to find something else that he can gain knowledge and wisdom about. And it's from the point of ignorance that he has come to the knowledge of whatever he's focused on.
Yeah.
And so he reduces that, and it's a process that you can use within your life.
Yeah. And what's funny is when you explained that to me, you didn't preface it with an explanation. You just said, imagine this. Imagine this baby goes into a cave.
Yeah.
And by the time you had finished your illustration, I knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
Which that's
Which
I mean,
also shows like the importance of story.
yes.
And the immortalization of ideas into story. Because of course, you know,
There's some mythos and religion gets started.
Yes. And that's the importance of it, really, is that these are big ideas that need to be contained, and people realize that, so they contain them into stories. They create the mythos, and they encapture the emotion within the story so that everybody can understand and come to it.
The problem is that the common person, if they hear that story from you, the only thing they're going to say is, what the fuck are you smoking? You know what I'm saying?
That's
the problem with the common person.
Because they're the old man.
Yeah.
They're the old
Not
man.
to say that we're high and mighty above people,
Yeah.
but most people
No, it's
refuse
the
to have the open-mindedness to think.
It's the opposite. It's reducing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what intense psychedelics do.
Yeah.
They strip away your ego and reduce you to nothing.
Absolutely.
Which is why
I
really struggle with DMT, because I got a large, fragile ego, and that don't run well with
That ruins the afternoon.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you think you're hot shit, huh? Let me show you
That
something.
is the
It'll ruin the next 3 months.
that levels every playing field that's ever existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you think you know something? That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
I love that pit of snakes.
That's really
I
good,
love
right?
That. Yeah, I love that.
And that's
beautiful.
also a testament to, I mean, you made that illustration. It's a beautiful illustration like that. Yeah, it's really cool.
That shows the thinkingness of Jordan. That's why.
Big brain.
That's why I get Jordan to help me write.
I'm terrible at everything.
You should have seen this. Y'all should have seen this man throw a frisbee about 30 minutes
It
ago.
was awful. I went over my fence and I have to go look for it in the neighbor's yard. Oh well.
That's okay.
So this is a hard right turn, but I just there's this thing, okay? There's this thing on TikTok, which I'm not on TikTok, but I just found out about this from another, like a YouTuber I was watching. Kids are busting open pregnancy tests, okay? Because there's a pill inside of these pregnancy tests. And it's a thing right now on TikTok to be like, oh my God, guys, there's a Plan B pill inside pregnancy tests. Dude, try this.
And they're cheaper than, they're trying to say they're cheaper than Plan B.
It's like, dude, they don't tell you
Oh,
this,
no.
but there's Plan B pills.
What?
There is a PSA out now because people have been doing this. It's a trend on TikTok now. But what that pill is an it absorbs moisture. So you eat it and it immediately dries up your throat, and it's not what you think it is. Like, it's not what they think it is at
That's
all.
borderline rat poison.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's like eating the
It's
little.
not good.
The Tide
You know
Pod?
when you buy a
Yes, I was gonna get into that.
You know when you buy the beef jerky packs and it comes with that little sack of balls? It's like if you open that sack of balls.
That's what that is. That's the dehydration packs. And
Yeah,
it's the same.
it's the same fucking thing. And it's so fucking funny, but it's also bad.
Oh, these are the people that make warnings on things that says fire is hot.
Yeah, it's like some dipshit somewhere.
Why?
Oh my goodness.
I don't understand.
So, okay, I kind of understand, and this is going to get into some conspiracy territory, but TikTok is a Chinese-run corporation.
Yeah.
I think it's warfare against America, not just America, but the rest of the world. I think the Cold War never ended. Every country is at each other's throats, and they always have been since the fucking 70s or before that. So not only do we have this Plan B thing, we also got there's the Tide Pods.
Yeah.
That's not a TikTok trend.
Yeah.
But I mean that's very detrimental.
Oh yeah.
And there's
just these stupid things that
well,
that go viral.
if you want to disassemble a society, you don't start with the elderly because they're already out the door. They got one foot out the door anyway. You start with the youth. You try to sterilize the youth, brainwash and indoctrinate the youth in whatever way you can. And
see, Trump's trying to get TikTok completely removed from the country, like get it banned, because China's been stealing people's private information by TikTok.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're already up to some really shady shit.
When people are upset because they want to keep watching their friends dance on TikTok, but that's not what the problem is.
Yeah, you got these teenage girls that are like, no, don't take away TikTok. Yeah. It's like you don't realize you're part of this scheme.
Yes, you're in the pyramid scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned the Cold War. The Cold War wasn't as cold as people like to think it was it?
The Cold it's colder War, now.
It's far colder now than it was at the time. That whole era is beyond interesting and filled to the brim with conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
we could go down this path.
That's another podcast.
Yeah,
that's a lot of information to unpack right there.
So a side note, Alabama is the first state to legalize, or not legalize, I don't know what the word would be. There is now legislation in Alabama where you can castrate pedophiles. And,
I saw that.
Which, I mean, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is strange because wasn't there like a law passed, or they're trying to pass a law in like California?
They're trying to include the pedophiles into the LGBTQ community, which is not being supported by the LGBTQ community themselves.
To preface that, a lot of people within that group do not like pedophiles.
Absolutely. That's something that anybody that has a common brain
associate with the
the elite are trying to normalize pedophilia. Which is fucked.
Which is happening at the same time that I'm going to say two words right here that are either going to make you really excited or roll your eyes out of your head, and that's Pizzagate.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, that's it. That's not a coincidence that that's getting pushed at the same time as everything else is afloat.
Yeah.
And people like to say, "Oh, that's the Epstein thing." Epstein is literally one finger of a centipede. Like this is, he's one person that got caught because they had a fall guy. He had already been in trouble a couple of times before for this and served some really short jail time. He was an easy one to get thrown under the bus. There's a reason that TV shows are getting canceled. Like Ellen, we're canceling Ellen because Ellen's mean to her employees. Are you? Or are you canceling Ellen because Ellen has a track record on the island? You know what I'm saying? And if this wasn't so high profile, these people would have disappeared permanently.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are getting disappeared permanently.
Yeah. It's shit. I mean, who am I to talk about this? But John McCain.
Oh,
how did he die?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I called that back then. I said that's some suspicious stuff right there. That's not a circumstance.
It looks to me like capital punishment.
Yeah.
That says we got the guy and we fucking killed him. And that's one little finger.
Well,
the larger fucking.
The longer that these people are in control, the less discreet they feel like they have to be. Like all of this is in everybody's face. Like it's not being hidden very well at all. But what they're doing is that they're funneling it into the conspiracy category. They want us to talk about this as much as possible because the more we talk about it, the crazier it sounds. We start sounding like the people that say we never went to the moon. You know what I'm saying? We're thrown into that same category because that's what they want. They want us to be the same people that say that Roswell was whenever we traded with the alien. They want us to be in that category so that whenever it does get talked about seriously, we just sound too crazy.
Exactly.
You can't trust that.
And it's part of the disinformation that comes along with it, which is so easy for people in power to manipulate.
Yeah.
It's all of their stuff to manipulate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the whole game. It's the game in movies. It's the game in media.
That's the thing. They funnel it into things like video games and movies and TV shows, so we get desensitized. So it's not near as bad whenever it does become public knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's one of the many problems, obviously.
Yeah. And you know, some people are gonna watch this conversation and they're gonna be like, oh, they're spouting all these conservative views. So let me just fucking set this straight. There's for a lot of people, it's either left or it's right.
Mm-hmm.
I say, fuck that whole thing.
That's the problem.
I don't care about if these pedophiles are Democrat or Republican. The problem is, elitist organized groups, regardless of what fucking side it is. It's not you can't, don't watch this and make it a partisan thing about, well, these guys, they just clearly are biased in this degree. It's like, no, we just don't like pedophiles.
Yeah, we don't like kids being fucked and then killed for a dream drone.
Yeah.
I'm not scared to preach that.
Yeah, no, fuck, yeah.
I mean, obviously, the thing about it is that both sides are necessary. But when something is happening that is just outright unacceptable and then hidden,
you expect unity.
Yeah.
That should be something we can all rally behind, is like, hey.
And for some reason, that's an issue.
Yeah. Is that weird?
Yeah, for some reason, it's an issue that one side wants to get this handled. And I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
The Revolutionary and Civil War was fought over this.
We are,
Literally. Our children are being raped and...
Did you know there's more slavery in the world today than in human history?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's all sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're busting it all over the country, but you yet to see any of that on the national news headline.
No, they don't want to talk about it.
No, because that's good. We're busting things. That's good. We need as much friction right now as possible.
No, let's make it a race issue.
Exactly.
Let's talk about how it's whites versus blacks instead of it being the government versus its people.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that's not fuck the government. We can make it a race issue. Let's make it a gender issue. Let's make it literally anything that isn't the actual problem.
That split something down the middle.
Yeah, because when people come together, when it's like people of the same, like different ethnicities, different mindsets, different genders, all this different, when they can come together and shake hands, they're fucked. The elitists are fucked.
Well, that's why the FBI sent Martin Luther King Jr. the letter urging him to kill himself, because it was too peaceful. It wasn't going. They needed chaos to make that side look bad, and it wasn't happening. It was a peaceful, truly humanitizing organization that was trying to get something done the appropriate and truly good way.
Have you guys heard JFK's last speech?
About the secret societies?
He's like, there's some secret societies that are running the world, and I'm going to blow the lid on that. What happens next?
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not conspiracy.
It's not. It's just frowned upon to talk about.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Abraham Lincoln had done the same thing.
I've heard that too.
And he was talking about how there are sets of power, and I'm not even paraquoting here, but there are sets of power that are out of control, and he is trying to stop what happens. And what happened to Abraham Lincoln? He got shot. He got assassinated.
Yep.
The grounds behind his assassination are just as shady as the ones behind JFK.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shaky ground there. And
it's still being debated today.
Yeah.
There's still.
I'm not going to try to quote anything because I don't remember sources or exact facts on it, so I don't want to say, oh, that fucker's wrong. But I know that I remember studying it for a while, and there was a lot of debated topics about both assassinations.
Yeah. This is another weird segue, but this is something that's been like going on in my mind, so I'm just gonna rant if you guys can bear with me for a minute.
Go with it.
I want to talk about cults in general.
All right.
The idea of a cult is what a cult is like, oh my God, what if we started a club where we could like exclude other people? Like we have this private information and like you can't, like we're exclusive little club and you can't be part of it. Like, first of all, you don't have any secret information that that's you want to look bigger than other people, like, and say, I got something you don't.
Mhm.
I know something you don't know, but you don't have that. And if you, you know who you are if you're watching this. You don't have that. You don't. You say you do, but you don't. And this gets into another level if you're a Satanist cult. I have a lot of admiration for the devil archetype, for Satan. Satan is about free knowledge. He says, hey man, eat this fruit. You don't have to pay me for it. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just saying, eat this, learn. That's the exact opposite of your fucking cult. If you're in a cult and you call yourself a Satanist, I spit on you, because that's the opposite of what Satan is. He is the light bringer. Lucifer literally means the shining one. He is bringing light to man. So if you're part of a group where you've got some kind of private information that you're withholding from others, like Illuminati, this is like a big one. You ain't about Satan. You ain't on that shit. And Satan has no love and respect for you. Actually, he's contradictory to what you are. So, I mean, maybe I take that too personally, but yeah, like, fuck that.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you said too about like, it's the opposite, because I mean, the whole idea of a cult is that, okay, we've learned something new.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's make this thing where it's private, where only a certain people can know what's real, and we'll know it.
Oh, this is for us. Not
This
you.
is for us.
Isn't
And
that
the
what
basis,
Mormonism is based on? The tablets or
the
whatever?
golden tablets or
That
something like that.
the kid went out and found, but yet nobody's ever been allowed to read, supposedly, or something like that.
I feel like it's something like that. And it's like, you know, you make this group around it, and I don't know, the whole seeking of knowledge stops after that,
Exactly.
because you're believing in something that somebody else is.
You're forming a bubble.
Yeah, you're forming a bubble around your own thoughts, which is the whole thing that initially made you want to go there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've lost it.
Yeah.
And it's, people get lost in this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize when it's happening, because they get like,
they're part of a cool club now.
Yeah, they start chewing on something that's slightly sweet, and so they think, oh, I've got it now.
Oh, I'm part of this group, and I can tell you guys right now, if I ever learn something, I'm sharing it with you. Like,
That's the goal. Spread as much knowledge as possible.
Because
I worship that ideal. I worship, like, this is what this podcast is like trying to understand things. Like, I'm learning things from you guys, like, and like, that's that's what I do with my friends. I try to like glean information from them.
Yeah.
And it's like, make that, like, collectively make each other better. And we're trying to share that with you guys.
Yeah, that's why the point of a podcast is just to share information as broadly as possible. Because talking person to person is pretty inefficient on a grand scale.
And the elite hate that.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's their biggest rival, is information.
Because if we're bipartisan, or if we're partisan and we're on one side or the other, then we're not sharing information across the line.
Yeah, fight each other, not
Yeah,
us.
exactly. We'll be the ones to tell you what's right.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something that's been on my mind lately, because it's fucked up. Especially like it's not accurate.
Yeah.
Especially if you call yourself a Satanist, because in my mind there's Prometheus, Enki, and Satan, and they're all the same thing. They bring light to man. That's a story that's been actually, fun fact, Baphomet. The word Baphomet is it's an anagram. I think that's the right word, or parallelogram, for the Hebrew word Sophia. And Sophia means wisdom.
Okay.
So Baphomet, it's you have to get into Hebrew to, I don't know Hebrew, but I've been told that Baphomet is the letter, if you convert Baphomet to Hebrew and convert the letters around, it makes the word Sophia.
Interesting.
And Sophia it means wisdom in Hebrew. And Baphomet is always depicted or most commonly depicted, he's got like this goat head, and he's got a dick, but he's also got tits, and it's a mix. It's the balance.
Mhm.
And that he's an androgen, which it's the balance, it's the equilibrium, it's the yin and the yang, and that's what Baphomet is it's balance, and it's also this is another segue where we can talk about the yin and the yang, because it's the masculine and the feminine together.
Yeah.
It's unity, yin yang, white black. Every duality, you need a balance between the two.
Right.
Which let's talk about Mandelbrot sets.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Mandelbrot set. This is a really interesting thing because, spirituality just in general is a very slippery subject.
Mhm.
It can go all sorts of directions. You can get spiritual people that believe in this and believe in that and believe in this and believe in that and believe in this and believe in that. So the Mandelbrot set, it's a mathematical thing. And for me, it's something that can give us a little insight into a picture of what the spiritual process within us looks like, actually, on a piece of paper. So if you're watching this, you can
I'll put some links up to the Mandelbrot.
It's interesting if you've never seen it. The image of it is wild.
I'd never even heard of it till a couple of days ago when you introduced the concept to me.
Yeah.
It's borderline art when you see it.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And it's, when you know what's going on, it makes it even more miraculous that it's happening. So it's pretty much just a fractal combination of, I forget how it's laid out. I'm not into mathematics very much, so I would fail.
It's a little over my head, to be honest.
It is over my head too. So pretty much, if you graph a line of numbers and you say here is 0 and here's 1 and here's -1, the Mandelbrot set within a certain calculation can create like this orb, and it'll have like a smaller orb down here. And let's say we paint those orbs black that we have. And if we move around a slider with a certain equivalent of pi, like calculating it or whatever, we can get these, like, there will be like spiral things that are happening all within this black area. So just beautiful combinations of numbers that are actually representing themselves on a piece of paper. And if you brim, like, say, the edge, you go up and you touch the edge of where this Mandelbrot set is, it blasts into infinity. As soon as you touch it, it just dives into infinity. And that's very important. And it's important in the spiritual process within our minds, because there's a generalized separation of things that happens. And you can see this in any religion. You can see this in any kind of philosophy or ideology, really, that there's something gray that is happening. And the grayness separates itself into two categories, white and black. And one is order and one is chaos. So order and chaos are like two things that we can never actually attain. Like, you can't ever have perfect order in this world. It's like a non-subject.
They're concepts. They're
because
not.
the second you have perfect order, you no longer have perfect order because there's no longer chaos.
Yeah, and it's not even an achievable thing. Like, we can't even get there.
Yeah,
we
don't even know what that looks like.
We don't even know what perfect order looks like, and we don't know what perfect chaos looks like, because they're non-subjects. It's kind of like the idea of tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes because the only thing that exists is right now.
Yeah. So
what the Mandelbrot set does is, within these black circles, you can have perfect order to a certain degree, and it will be infinite within that. And then as soon as you touch the brim, it explodes into chaotic infinity.
And I'll put some graphic visual, like some links to some visual representations of this, because it's actually very interesting when you see the borderline between order and chaos. It takes on a actual, like you said, it's art.
Yeah,
it's borderline
art. Yeah,
it's beautiful. What and it's just math.
Yeah, it's just math.
It's math.
If I'm not mistaken, they use that set to calculate pure randomness for like something as simple as like how your phone's music library shuffles its music in what order. I think that they use the Mandelbrot set for, if I'm not mistaken, to pick out the purely random numbers and do a very simplified version of it for something like that.
Yeah.
And they use it for all kinds of different electronic applications like that for when they're looking for randomness.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how it's applied exactly. I think Vsauce told me that, so go to Vsauce.
Well, Numberphile too has some really interesting videos on it. Which Numberphile, they're all about mathematics, and all of the stuff that they talk about is way over my head. So I mean, they're far better at explaining it.
Yeah, they'll do a much better job of it than we're doing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it is important to see that, because it's something, the beauty of it is something that you don't have to understand the mathematics to recognize the beauty of what is happening. And for me, that feels like the fingerprint of God.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that I know how to interpret that. And,
go ahead.
I don't necessarily believe like in a finite God. Like, I don't know that I'll ever be able to put a name on God. But to see something,
you can, then it's not God.
If you can, then it's no longer the thing that I'm talking about. Yeah. So
the moment you try to put it in a box, it's not what you're talking about.
Yeah, that destroys it.
Yeah.
But we can see a representation of that. And that's
absolutely.
Yeah, and that
is
the
beautiful.
mathematics and the beauty of what is the infinity and the pure just power. Unfathomable power that is happening there. And the way that it's separated too, order and chaos. And we see this as a fractal within our lives, that there's order and there's chaos, and that's represented in deities and religious structures and even power structures.
Exactly.
One side is order and one side is chaos, and so we need to divide this thing. And it's something that's significant, because we can look within ourselves and see how that's happening. And to get a picture of that, it's just...
Well, we are chaotic by nature as a human being. Everything that we do, from walking to breathing, is chaotic in some form or another.
Right.
But when you get down to a molecular cellular level, the order there is beautiful. Like, look at a strand of DNA. You see what I'm saying? The order creates chaos in a way like that, if you want to get really philosophical about it.
What we are is a product of both.
Yeah, absolutely, because you have to be.
And you are a unique balance of order and chaos from what I am and from what Jordan is.
Yeah. If we were all absolute order, there would be no distinguishing factor between any of us. And if there was all complete chaos, then none of us would be anything at all. And so there's a balance that happens there of turning the thing into the non-thing, so that we can grasp this thing that we're calling reality right now.
One of my favorite... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and there's an infinite number of mixes, of blends of the two. That accounts for every individual. And we were talking about Hindu gods, how between this balance of order and chaos, there's some, what do you say, like 33 million? I think there's something like, and you know, who knows what, honestly, I mean, if the number is really 33 million, then honestly, who knows? I don't think that it's like well documented. Probably not. You know, and from my understanding, you know, like if you go to a rural village in India, you know, each different village will have their own god that you've never heard of before. Well, it's no wonder, because there's 33 million of them, or maybe 45 million, you know, who knows what. There's an infinite amount. There's an infinite amount, you know, perceivably, of gods. And it's because the Hindus have gotten that, you know, you create the god. Yes. The thing that you're worshiping it's a product of you. It's a product of you that is encapsulated in a story. And the emotional significance of the story carries with it the knowledge that it has by its nature. Yep. Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack, but it's there.
Yeah.
There's a really good book on that, and I was telling Jordan about it the other day. I never did finish it, but I started it twice, and I just didn't finish it. I think because my iPod broke at the time. It's called American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
Yes! I've read American Gods.
That is a perfect simplified representation. We got a puppy fight.
Loki, quit it. Quit being a bad dog.
Because all the old gods of the world are aging out and fading away, and the new gods of technology are reigning over it.
Internet,
And that's
radio.
exactly what they do. The Hindus do with their religion. They create new empowering gods for whatever benefits their life in a way. And it depends on each region, because each region needs to sustain different things and needs different things to progress, and different things mean different things to them. Different emotions are standing out in each different village. And that's kind of beautiful.
So being aware that we create our gods, that we conceptualize them and then worship them, really what that tells me is that we're the real gods. Well, I guess it's just how you look at it, but we create these ideas, and then there's a concept called an egregore. It's something I've talked to Jordan about before. It's kind of a hard thing to explain, but I think when you have an imaginary friend, like most children have an imaginary friend of some kind, but it's sort of looked at like it's silly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you create an imaginary friend or a god, because there's really no difference, if you create that thing at a certain point, that idea becomes alive and takes on a life independent of you.
Separates from your consciousness into reality.
So what's really interesting about that is me and you could like collaborate on a god, and it's like me and you together decide what this god's going to look like, what its story
based off
is.
our interpretations of what we want.
Yeah, so that's a piece of me and it's a piece of you. And it's now neither of us also. It's a separate thing.
Exactly.
And I think there's a literal truth to that, where it exists out in the ethos somewhere.
Well, that sounds very similar to the creation story of Adam and Eve. He took his own image and his own personification of what he wanted to create and put that onto them, and then they became their own things.
Man is made in God's image.
Exactly. And although they were made from him and what he wanted, they then gained their own self, and we chose to sin. Or if you read it down that way, you chose to sin or to do whatever we want to do until we got here. But we were initially just an extension of the being. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And what's funny is a man wrote that story. Man, I mean, even if you say it's divinely inspired, someone had to write that down at some point. So God makes man, and at the same time, man makes God, because there's someone telling that story. And it's I think it's paradoxical. Like maybe because we're human and we have to have a human understanding of things, maybe that's just outside of our reach.
Yeah.
Where it's like, actually it's both. Man makes God and God makes man. And it's I don't know, I'm getting to territory where it's hard for me to
It's hard to put it into words.
Somebody that talks about this actually is Ramana Maharshi. He goes into this, and I'm not sure the years that he was, giving lectures or his, pilgrimage, whatever you want to call it. But he has some really interesting things to say about it, because he goes into, think about it for yourself, think about how, what is it really? Is it that God is making man? Is it that happened? Or is it that we have created the stories of God, and so man makes God? And from my interpretation, that seems to be true, because anytime that I call something God and I give it personalities, it no longer becomes the ultimate source of creation that I'm initially talking about.
As soon as you start to define it, it's not what you're talking about.
It's no longer the thing anymore. And there's no amount of language that I can get to that will ever bring that to fruition. Right. It's just not the way that language works.
It's outside of your parameters.
Sorry, guys. These puppies are being wild.
Oh, hey, they're fine. Look at the puppies, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, symbiote.
They're heathens.
Crazy right now.
Daddy's enjoying a cookie. Gypsy, get down.
They're cute.
She's gonna end up ripping his head off. My thing is it feels to me that humans ultimate goal is self-preservation and in our instincts. Like we want to make it to the next day. We want to survive the night. We don't want to starve to death. We want to reproduce so that our gene pool keeps going on. Like that's basic human instinct. And that can be spread out and elaborated over a lot of different things. But one of the things we need for self-preservation is a belief system when it comes down to it. Because mental strength is arguably more important than physical strength. And if you're mentally strong, and if you're in the belief that the sun is a god, and that because that God will come up and brighten your day tomorrow, that will give you the strength to continue, and you can't quit until that sun doesn't come up anymore. That's initially where belief system probably came from in some sense. And right when you were just hungry enough to give up, you found food. Right when your crops were about to wither and die, it rained, and you became thankful for those things.
Oh my God.
Puppies.
Yeah, bro.
Sleepy, irritable. But because we became thankful for those things, those became, in a way, self-preservation, that we would worship those things so they would keep happening. And we have a tendency to personify things. Like if you have a favorite car, you call it a she. Like she's my favorite car. You know what I'm saying?
She's a beauty.
Exactly. And that's, like Jordan said, it's a kind of a bad habit, because the second you personify the thing that does give you self-preservation, it no longer becomes the important deity that it once was, and you have to continue down the line. And when you give that generations and generations of different humans' mindsets giving personification to the thing that they think is valuable, then it changes. Like initially, it was probably the sun and the moon that we worship the most. And then we realized that the sun is what brightened the day, and then heated the water and the air, and then
you got it, dude.
Yeah, and then because it heats the water and the air, that means it loves us. And then because it loves us, that means it probably put us here. And then if it put us here, then it must look like us. And then it continues down the line until it's what we have today. And then that becomes a form of control, which is what it was at one point. I mean, the government was the church, and the church did what they needed to do to the Bible, which fitted for the time. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that thought process, including my mother, but that's one thing that I believe.
That's a rabbit hole, and
yeah, exactly.
We're gonna go down it right now, even further.
I'm down.
Let's go. Because there's this concept called aeons, or you could call them eras, and I believe it's something Aleister Crowley laid out, but I'm not sure who conceptualized this way, but there's the age of Isis, there's the age of Osiris, and there's the age of Horus. And it's going to take a second to unpack, but those are all three Egyptian gods. And Isis was the mother, Osiris was the father, and Horus was the child. Now, if you go back like 3000 BC prior, back to sort of to the beginning of like what we remember of our history, like what's written down, and further back, the religions of that time, they all worshipped the mother. And gods of that time were characterized. Okay, if you think about like, forget everything you know. You're just an individual in this reality moving around, okay? You're born into this world and you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. There's
sorry.
Okay. At that point in time, everyone was just fucking. It's a giant orgy. Yeah. Giant orgy. No one even knows where babies come from.
They're a gift.
Yeah. It's just like women are these magical creatures that spit babies out. No one knows where they come from. It's just like, yeah, women have this power where they make babies. Because everyone's fucking, they don't know. So, okay. So your mother, she feeds you. You're like at her bosom. She gives you life.
Hell, you came out of her.
Yeah, she is your God.
Yeah.
She made you, and now she's nurturing you. Now she's feeding you. Okay. Well, at a certain point, you get weaned from your mother, and now you have to survive off the land. While the earth is your mother now. That's Mother Gaia. So it's all about worshiping the feminine and the earth. Now, at a certain point, people started to understand where babies came from, that it was the woman had to be impregnated by the seed. So what happens at this point is we enter the age of Osiris. This is the male god era. And instead of being about feminine and the earth, it's now about the masculine and the sun, because the sun is what provides those nutrients to the earth. So now people of this time start worshiping the sun. Now, if you guys haven't heard this, it's going to blow your fucking mind. The sun, it's born in the morning, it dies in the evening, and it's resurrected the next day. S-U-N-S-O-N, Son of God, like Jesus Christ is he's born, he's died, and he's resurrected. I think Jesus is a metaphor for the literal sun in the sky. It's a way for people to conceptualize that idea. And what's interesting is Aleister Crowley, in 1914, no less, declared the death of Christianity.
Really?
In 1914, right?
Wow.
That's wild. So he says, listen, Christianity, it's going to take a long time to die. Like, it's going to take thousands of years for this transition to happen. But we are experiencing, we're leaving the age of Osiris, and we're entering the age of Horus. Now, Horus is the child of Isis and Osiris. So we went from worshiping God the Mother to God the Father to God the Child, or God the Children. And if you look around you, that's true. We worship rock stars. We worship actors. We worship
TikTok stars, like
the men of God, or the children of God, rather than the gods themselves.
You'll get like characters, which, I mean, obviously I don't know these people personally, but just the absurdity of some of the things that happen. Like, you look at people like, I don't know, Logan Paul or something, you know?
Yeah, how did he get to that level?
Yeah, or the girl that went on Dr. Phil and
Catch Me Outside.
Catch Me Outside girl.
How about it?
She's a deity.
It's ridiculous.
It's a fertility,
and it's actually happening. People buy into it. It's like people are into that.
Yeah,
that's the popular conscious consensus. That's what we're into now.
Well, the Kardashians are the best example, because they're famous because their mom.
You'll keep going. I got
their mom bred with the OJ lawyer, and then he died, and then she married an Olympic athlete, and then he turned into a woman, and Kim fucked an NFL player, and the other one fucked an NBA. Like, they're just famous for who they fuck. Yeah. Mom included.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are hooking up with rappers and who they fuck. I mean, they're the perfect example of it, because they're the unreachable goal for a person. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's like, what is the path to get on that goal? And it's just something that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Nothing that any human should want to do.
Right. Nothing that any person that's like mature within their brain will be like, okay, that's a reasonable thing I need to shoot for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this. Your description of the mother and the earth and the son and the father, that didn't go where I thought it was going to, and I'm not crapping on it. I'm just saying, because the first thing that came in my head whenever you were talking about we started off worshiping the mother is, well, that's because probably at the time men still held a hierarchical position, right? Women were, I'm guessing at the time, more of the homestead wife, and the men did the more dangerous things or the more ritualistic things. And because of that, when they did something spiritual, they encountered women, which most men encounter women smoking DMT. And that's a very common thing. Your first several times is meeting the women. Actually, now that you mention it, everyone I've talked to about DMT has met her. Yeah. Just her, whoever she is. Right. Well, and then also, I don't know if it's the most potent, but I know it's one of the most known potent plants in the world that contains DMT. Like, the most concentrated dose is the acacia bush in the Middle East. And they strongly believe that
Burning
is what
bush.
the burning bush was. They
Yeah.
strongly believe that, and that's from their college
What
in
makes
the Middle
sense
East.
too, because even within the Ark of the Covenant, the way that they were wrapping the exterior or the most holy,
Yeah.
or whatever that they were getting into, when that practice was going on, the tent had to be full of incense, and it's like, okay, well, what was the incense? And it's like frankincense and something else, and there's a lot of debate that what was actually happening was these people were getting high on
blitzed
DMT.
out of their fucking mind on
They were getting high
DMT
on DMT
and talking to God.
and talking to God. Yeah,
Because I don't care what you do, if you take DMT the right way, and if you take the hits to the point where you're supposed to where you break through, because you're gonna know. When you take enough, you know, because you don't know anymore. If you're still able to set up and say,
I really like.
if you're able to set up and say, fuck, I'm high, then you're not high enough. And you gotta take one, maybe two more.
Yeah.
Because when you really get high, you no longer human. Like, your body's a fucking husk.
You're fucking.
In the words of
Terrence
Terrence McKenna, you get fully loaded.
Fully loaded. It's just a toke away.
Oh my god! And that's like the ultimate fully loaded.
If I was,
don't get more loaded than that.
No, if I was in a
don't take much
time
either.
where
Yeah,
the
it
most
doesn't
exciting shit that I saw was a shooting star, if that was the most exciting thing that I had ever seen, and I smoked DMT, I would be the fucking prophet. I swear, I would write a fucking book about the God.
Yeah.
If I did, God. It makes me want to do it today in 2020. And there's infinitely, if somebody from that time came today and saw the shit that we had, we would literally be held as deities in their eyes. We are no longer human to them.
And I don't think that reduces that experience anymore.
No.
You should do that.
Yes, that's the feeling you should walk away from. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 years in the future from now. When you take DMT, it will shatter the glass ceiling of whatever your expectations are of what reality really is.
Why do you guys think it's illegal?
Okay, so
this is a lot.
I can't
put
think
my
of
fucking crock on.
Single fucking good reason.
Okay, so
this is a lot.
Recently they had that big, I don't know if it was by WikiLeaks. I keep calling it the WikiLeaks dump that they just did. I don't know if it was actually by WikiLeaks, but I know a lot of the files in the government got dumped. And it's like borderline a copy of everything. And I keep saying that because it was so much shit, and you didn't see that anywhere. Like, you saw it on Facebook if you follow the right kinds of pages, or on Reddit, but that's about fucking it, because nobody ran with that story. But shit got dumped. Well, people that are better than me and have far more time on their hands than I do went and dug through this shit. And I saw one of the articles, and one of them was discussing the federal government, and it didn't say what branch, using dimethyltryptamine as a drip and keeping people in this realm for weeks at a time, or days at a time to a week, keeping them under. Okay. Can you imagine?
Oh my god!
Like dripping in an IV or something.
Yeah.
I've heard about this.
Yeah. I spent 5 minutes in there the other day and had to remember that I was a human. I had to look at my hands and think, oh, fake. Okay, I'm Aidan again. Fuck. No. Can you imagine a week under?
Actually, a friend of mine was just telling me that someone did a study where he had people hooked up to an IV with it, and when you get to a certain dose, you don't bring back anything. It's like, I know that was really profound, but I don't remember anything about it. People have the best trips. People have really bad trips when they don't take enough either. Yeah. So you have to get, there's right over the breakthrough threshold is where you want to be. If you're hooked up to an IV and you get too much, you can actually, you're not going to bring anything. You're not going to bring anything back.
Well, it's almost like the thing that is our memory.
Yeah.
Is breaking away from us.
Yeah.
And it's like that's because that is something that's here in this world.
Yeah. You want your body to give out because your body is the tool that gets you there. And once it stops, that's whenever your mind can go. Right. You want your body to break free for a minute so your mind can get out. But if you go past that, then it's useless.
And there's no fucking good reason why it's illegal.
But the problem is that when they put them on these drips, they don't plan on them bringing anything back necessarily. They're not doing it for them to have an experience. They're sending them there as like ambassadors, negotiators with these other things. Let's get
some Alex Jones shit.
It is, but this is what he talked about in 2018 on Joe Rogan, right?
Years ago.
But this is 2020 when this gets dumped, and this is in a federal fund, right? And they're talking about they're getting sent there as ambassadors and being left there for periods of time. And they're having several instances of people not being able to return.
What?
Yes, just coma of a body.
Coma.
Like their body's useless. They're gone. They can't retrieve them. They take the drip out. They're no longer in their.
Oh shit! They don't come back.
Yeah, they're just in. They're just in.
Dude.
I know. I'm not fucking. This was in the fucking file that I read. That's what I'm getting at. Like that's the reason. And in that same tone of breath, it was. I don't know if it was because I'm reading these on fucking screenshots and shit because I'm not digging for them myself. So in the same sequence of things that I read, something was saying that they've concluded, like they're done with this, they have concluded that there's no mathematical formula or equation that we can duplicate that can simulate an alternate universe or reality. We can't figure that out through our physical restraints in math. The only way is through the mind. That is the only access point that humans know of to actually leave this reality into the next. And that's not a hallucinogenic state.
It's not even from the perspective of the brain. It's from consciousness.
Yeah, but that's your portal through it. Like
not the brain, but the soul.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your brain is like the deadbolt on your consciousness. Like you have to open the brain for it to leave. Yeah, you have to turn it all on, and then your signal's out. But you have to tone in your brain perfectly, or else it's not going to have it.
We're tuned into this reality, but there's an infinite number.
Well, like acid is like if the window to the other reality is muddy as shit. Acid's like wiping it with a dirty paper towel, and it's like, look at that. That's I can almost see out because it opens it up just a little bit. But when you take DMT, it fucking shotgun slug through the fucking window.
Yeah,
and it's like, look at that shit. There's no more fucking window.
And there's like you're dropped in the middle of the
and then they give you a new window and put it up for you.
Yeah.
Like you got to go back now. I'm sorry.
You're back. Yeah.
You have to go back. We have to drop you off and you can come back again later.
And it's weird in that experience how clear that is.
Yeah.
Because you're still aware that you're there.
You're completely sober.
It's not like any other kind of drug because other drugs change you.
Yeah.
Even alcohol or caffeine. You take caffeine and you're hyper.
Yep.
You drink alcohol and you get drunk, you get slurry. You know, you smoke some weed and you get, I don't know, anxiety or something like that. DMT does not do that to you.
If you have fear, it's because you're doing something wrong.
And it puts your sober mind somewhere else, your sober consciousness.
I was just about to say that. I don't think calling it a psychedelic is a mischaracterization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The moments before you launch are psychedelic. Like if you do 3 good hits, if you
don't do the
fourth,
wavy.
if you don't do the 4th, you'll have 3 or 4 good minutes of a good fucking time.
And then if you take enough, you hit that. And then you're gone. Yeah.
Yep. And then it's no longer a psychedelic experience. Then it is your consciousness is now in a different place.
Yep.
And they're gonna deliver you back to your body. Don't worry, you'll be back in a minute. But just fucking experience it while you're there. And this is also interesting to show that the government may be admitting this amongst themselves now, that that's the only access point. But the church is known because outside the Vatican, you have the statue of the pine cone.
Yeah,
which is the pineal gland. Which is protected by what? Everything that's up here that we call the brain surrounds it and cushions the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And now I want to talk about fluoride because they're putting chemicals in our water to turn freaking frogs gay.
Turning frogs gay.
Well, I mean, that is true.
That is true, actually.
That's actually true.
That's happening. If you don't believe that, you can look that up. That's actually a thing. Alex Jones again.
And it became... Anyway, yeah, it is literally true. But also, they're putting chemicals in the water, and they've been doing it since the fucking 60s, that calcify your pineal gland.
Yeah.
It makes it inactive. And, dude, okay, you guys know who Stanley Kubrick is?
Yeah.
I don't.
Stanley Kubrick?
The director? The Shining?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, The Shining, Eyes Wide Shut.
Didn't he do the color, or no, the orange, it's Clockwork Orange? Did he do that?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. I saw that movie not so long ago.
Yeah. Clockwork Orange. He did a bunch of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
But one
with the thing on the
obelisk.
Yeah. The obelisk. Yeah.
That's all Stanley Kubrick. Okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting. This is what I'm talking about. But he actually died while Eyes Wide Shut was being filmed, or right after it had been filmed, right before it came out in theaters. Eyes Wide Shut is a movie starring Tom Cruise, where he enters a secret society where they have blood rituals. Stanley Kubrick died while that movie was being made.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
Anyway, one of Stanley Kubrick, it's an old black and white movie. It's one of the best fucking movies ever made.
Mhm.
It's called Doctor Strangelove. And it's an old black
I've heard of it, but yeah, but I don't know it.
It's an old black and white movie, and it's a comedy. And I swear to God, there is not a funnier movie to this day. But it's from the fucking 60s. This dude was light years ahead of his time, okay? And there's a dude in that movie, he's like, you know, they put fluoride in our water. It calcifies your pineal gland. And I'm watching this in like 2018.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
where the fuck did that come from? Left field as shit. Yeah.
This was a very popular movie in the 60s. So this was just common knowledge, dude. And like nothing's been done about it.
Does it pass that guy off as like a paranoid guy? Yeah, that's what they want though. No, I'm not saying Stanley Kubrick in general, but that may have been the only way he could get that message out.
He's got to do it somehow. He's got to sneak it
as calling the guy crazy, but meanwhile that he knows.
You called it, dude, because that character is he's very unhinged.
And see, I asked you that before I even knew, because I knew that's the only way you're going to show it. Yeah. Of course, if you want to block off the direct line to what actually is spirituality, what actually is the root of probably fucking all religion aside from Mormonism and shit that is, and Buddhism and shit that's man-made. I'm not shitting on those. I mean, if that is what you are, then that is what you are. That's fine. I don't care. You won't hear me judge you a fucking bit. I don't give a shit. But the root of true spiritual religion is from the pineal gland and the access to what is the other place.
The ethereal.
And I don't give it a name because I'm not wise.
We already discussed giving
enough.
it a name does not do it justice.
No, and that's not my fucking place.
Which, talking on toothpaste, I wanted to say, I think there's like a Naked toothpaste brand. I think it's called Naked, but they have fluoride free.
Yeah.
So if you guys ever go to Walmart next time, buy some fluoride free stuff.
Yeah.
You want your pineal gland to be open. You don't want to calcify it any more than it already has been.
And the best way to keep something in shape is to use it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's actually exercises. Next time you guys try this, next time you guys go to bed, just focus your energy, like with your eyes closed while you're trying to fall asleep. Focus your energy right here. I swear, you can feel it. You can feel something here, like
direct
a muscle,
access.
like a muscle. You're flexing. You're just try and focus all of your energy in the spot. And that's not an idea I came up with. That's something I can't remember who presented that to me. It might have been McKenna.
At one time, there was
I think that's a broad idea too.
At one time, there was a group of people that could access that trip on demand. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced.
We're talking about meditation.
Yeah, well, yes, but there's Terrence McKenna's brother. I always forget his first name. Yeah, Dennis. Yeah. He's a big pusher of the lamp. I can't remember what the lamp is called. It's like a lamp you meditate under, and it's a light that induces the DMT trip. It's like an 8-hour meditation. Like it's a day. Like you're spending a day for the trip. And I've heard it's not even as intense as what you would get from smoking it. But I'm convinced at one point, people's minds were so uncluttered and focused in on what truly was that they could do this almost on demand. Like they knew how to focus their brain. They knew the thought process. They knew the focus and commitment and belief system involved. And they may even had regular access to these beings. Like that could, because when you do communicate with them, yes, they know you on a personal level because it feels like they're your parent, but it feels like they're like up to date with the times almost. Like they know what you need because of what you've experienced, and they're aware of everything that we're in. It feels like they just can't get to us anymore. So they get excited when we show up to them because they miss talking to us.
Dude, I was talking earlier about Ouija boards, which again, I want to, I really don't like that spiritualism is frowned upon. It's treated like hocus pocus bullshit. Because I bought a Ouija board, okay? Me and this girl I was seeing at the time, and we bought this board, okay? And it's I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a circle
with the cat.
Yeah,
I've seen it plenty of times.
Okay, yeah, it's not when you think of a Ouija board, it's rectangular and the letters are splayed like a rainbow almost, and it's got the planchet is triangular, which is actually designed after a wishbone. But this board is the letters are in a circle, okay? And the planchet itself is also a circle. When I bought this, I didn't know that I thought it was just a different style.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was a difference between those kinds of boards. It was later on when I got really heavy into witchcraft and the occult and seriously studying it, that I realized, I learned that there is a difference between the two. One is called an evoking board, EVOKING, and one is an invoking board, INVOKING.
Mhm.
And you can imagine the difference as a window versus an open door.
Yeah.
So if I'm using an evoking board, there's not any serious risk, because even if you're talking to something malicious and angry, you're protected by this wall. It can't get through to you, and I think that's true. And it's all about shape. It's about sacred geometry. It's something about shapes and connected with the human mind, observing it.
Yeah.
Because a Ouija board, it's a piece of cardboard. It's fucking Hasbro makes them.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about that. What it is the magician's focus on an object. Which I have friends that channel spirits without a board. They've never even fucking touched a Ouija board. They don't need that shit. I call it training wheels because it eases you into the idea of talking to spirits. An invoking board does not have that barrier. It's shaped like a circle, and what that represents is you are within this circle with something else. So that's where things like bodily possession come into play. Now, you mentioned when you have had DMT trips, it's like these things are aware, but they're excited to talk to you because they're not there anymore.
Yeah, they feel like they're missing out on the conversation. They got to catch up.
They got it. Yeah. So Ed, without exception, every single time, I've probably done it at least 100 times at this point. Every time I have communicated with the spirit, it's ecstatic. Like, which, I mean, do what you will with this information. I'm a fucking idiot. Don't just take anything I say at face value, okay? But my experience, I've had experienced bodily possession to where, like, my hands. Let me explain this a little better. The first time it happened, okay, if you got your hand on a Ouija board, if someone else is touching it, right? Like, say me and you touching a Ouija board, and neither of us have experienced anything supernatural before. When the thing starts moving, even if you and I trust each other really well, the immediate instinct is,
okay, this fucker's touching it.
This fucker's touching it, he's moving it. What's interesting about a Ouija board is if you're humor it, like, okay, maybe he's moving it, but I'm just gonna see what happens. After a certain point, you're like, oh, this thing is saying things that this isn't him. The first time I had used one, it was like I said, it's an invoking board, which I want to bring this kind of stuff to light, because if you're thinking about buying a Ouija board, you need to be careful about the product you're getting, because start out with an evoking board. Start out with something what you think of typically when you see a Ouija board. Because I had no fucking idea. We had no idea what we were getting into. But I didn't even believe it. I was doing it as a joke. I was an atheist. And I had my hand on this planchette, and after it's talking to us for a while, after it's moving around, I feel like there's a string wrapped around my finger. And it's like doing that. And I'm like, that's weird. That's really fucking weird. But it's not. I was also on LSD, which is an important detail in the story. I don't think that discounts it, because I think the two are hand in hand.
Well, I don't think it discounts it also, because mystical experience, it can happen naturally, and it can be invoked by psychedelics.
You got to open the brain up.
Yes, you have to open your brain up, and that's something that's important to be mentioned. But continue.
Yeah, like exactly, because at this point, I can channel spirits without psychedelics, without a board if I wanted to. Yeah, it's just a mental process.
Right.
But at the time, I didn't have any frame of reference, so I needed a board and I needed psychedelics to break that mold in my head.
Yes.
And anyway, so I'm experiencing bodily possession at this point. It's but I'm tripping. And what's interesting is I'm tranced out. So I'm watching this, but I'm not scared. I'm like, okay, something else is moving my finger, but I'm just gonna let it happen. I'm just gonna see what happens. So it kind of moves up my hand. It's doing this. And my immediate thought this is like physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
This is like if you were trying, like, say you were injured in combat or something. It's like, your physical therapist is like, okay, make a fist.
Yeah.
You have to relearn that muscle. So this thing's trying to learn how to use my hand.
Yeah.
And so it's doing this just over and over and over and over again, probably like 100 times. And then once it feels comfortable with that, it's like starts rotating my shoulder. And at this point, I'm like, okay. So I consciously wiggle my toes. And I'm like, okay, I can. And then I stop it. I mean, just for a second, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still in control of this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really scare me at that point because I'm like, I've got this. Like, I'm just going to let it happen, but I'm in control. I'm in charge of what's going on. So, anyway, that was I got off on a tangent, but you were talking about how the enthusiasm. Every time I've met one of these things, it's so excited to be using my body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whoa, I'm in a human fucking body right now. And it doesn't want to leave.
It makes you wonder if when we smoke DMT and if we go there, if we're not renting a vessel from there.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Because that's how we traverse the world so freely like they do.
Yeah.
Dude, like two sides of the same
And
coin.
they're like, you should be excited. This is what we're doing. And yet we don't even really know what we're doing.
Yeah.
If you go enough, you'll understand. Like those questions are unanswerable almost. But.
Yeah. And see, the thing that is form.
Yeah.
It comes down to form.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what is the form of another that's out there?
Because if you go enough, it doesn't have one.
It doesn't have
It's
one.
whatever it wants to be in the moment.
And it's the same for when you're there and you look and you don't have a form either.
Yeah.
But you know that you're there.
They can be very humanoid if they want to. It's like they know what we look like. Like they've visited here enough to know. But it's so hard for them to recreate this there. But they fucking try. Like they try to look as humanoid as possible. And this is something that's cool. The first time I went, I had listened to a little bit of Terrence McKenna, but he's very open-ended with this shit. Like the only thing you're gonna hear him say something about a deity is a fucking self-propelled basketball and an elf. So there's no description of shit. So whenever you go in, you're like, I don't know what the fuck to prepare for. So whenever I went and I saw her, I didn't know what to make of it. And she was being very coy with how she was showing herself to me. And then out of nowhere, I get a full body, right in my face image of her, and she looks like a fucking Mayan carving. Like she just looks Mayan. She looks like she has the Mayan headdress with feathers, and that's just what she looked like, jawline and everything. And I only got to see her once though. But since I've gone back, there is a strong mixture between them trying to look modern and then what I would say traditional. Like they remember what we were dressed as back then, and they're trying to recreate that. But then some of them are like, no, they don't dress like that. Like it's us now. This is the clothing that, like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It feels like they're trying to appeal to us as a human spectrum instead of as the time that we're in. Because time here is distorted for them like it is for us there.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to interact because they don't know where we're at. Like they're wondering where we're coming from at the time.
Yeah,
that's a really good.
What timeline are you in? What do we need to show you?
Exactly. That's something that Kalindi Lee actually gets into. Which, if anybody is watching this, Kalindi Lee, he goes into extremely high doses of psilocybin.
That's the dude you showed me?
Yeah.
I really recommend that guy also.
Yeah, and what he has to say about it is very interesting, and it goes along the lines of what you were saying, because he talks about how LSD can only get you so far because there's only so much memory that's capsuled within that time span.
It's only been around for like 50, 60 years.
Yes. So that route within our mind
that reality is still building its construct.
It's still building.
Whoa. Meanwhile, for humans, we have 150,000 years of
DMT that is producing our reality as we know it.
And they're building off of that. So every time we go, they're like, which one are you? What do you want to see? Are you here for this or this? That's why each experience is different, because it's like checking in on a different time.
Yeah. Like I told you about, I had that one breakthrough. Like I've only had one breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it several times, but I've only had the balls to
3 for 3.
Nice dude.
It's fucking scary.
I mean, that's fucking, to do it again.
To think of somebody like Terrence McKenna and to think that he did it almost every day for like 25 years. I'm like, you are the bravest fucking human on the planet.
To think that he did it on the peak of an LSD trip.
Yeah, doing it while on LSD.
That is a funny story.
That story's hilarious.
That almost sounds like doing it. I'm not gonna unrecommend. Like, I'm not gonna say don't do that.
Yeah, don't let that discourage you. Definitely do it if you get
the only thing I wouldn't do it if I had alcohol in my system enough to disorient me. That's almost disrespectful.
Yeah.
Because you're not just fucking tripping. We need to, like, it is an experience of going into someone's home and showing up drunk and expecting to be catered to.
Yeah.
And they don't like that.
No.
And I keep saying they. If you've never gone, it is a they. But it won't make any sense.
Don't expect a good time. Expect a profound time.
Yeah.
And be respectful. Be humble. Be respectful.
And if you get a good time, be thankful.
So that's one of the things about it is the emotional significance.
Yeah.
Because, and it's almost one of the things that creates it as a whole is the emotion that's carried along with it. I don't think I've ever been more emotional in all of my life.
Jordan came to my house crying. And I don't think you mind me telling you that. And it wasn't in sadness or fear. He was just
profound.
I've never seen Jordan like that. It was amazing.
And I don't get like that often.
No.
I'm not usually a terribly an emotional person.
Yeah.
But this will pull you to a level of emotion that you cannot normally access.
Yeah.
And it's with the emotion, all of these other things are happening to you while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And just the whole experience as a whole, it's just words cannot. Just that's the best way. Words cannot.
Yeah. As much as we talk about it, there's
sorry guys, I'm getting a phone call.
No, you're good, man. But like I was telling him earlier about that one trip I had that was that trip I had at your place where I had my breakthrough experience and how painful that was for me.
Yeah.
So when I did it this last time, it's like I really
anxiety. Yeah.
My friend was like, "Do you want this?" I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I really, really don't. But I think I should. It's like I really, really don't want to do this, but I don't even think I told you about this yet. The experience I had that time. They're just simply it wasn't a lack of trying. We simply didn't have enough for me to have a breakthrough experience. But I did tell you about this. I had so much anxiety going into it, but as soon as I hit it, all that anxiety left me.
Yeah, all of it dissipates.
And I was immediately wrapped in this warmth, and I didn't have any visuals, but I remember being rocked. As I was leaving the trip, I remember hearing waves. So it felt like I was in a boat, just not rough water, but just very gently rocking back and forth in the sea. And it also gave me this idea of being cradled, like a baby in its mother's arms. Like it was very
soothing.
Yeah, it was bliss.
It was, yeah.
And I came out of this like, wow, I thought that was going to be so rough, and it was just nothing but peace. And I also got this intuition that what they realized it was what the previous experience had been too much. And they're like, okay, well, we don't need, that was obviously too much for him.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that again. We're going to give him
the opposite side of the spectrum this time. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'd had a really rough experience, but it was also what I needed at the time.
It was something that you found profound. Yeah. And you could make use of.
But it's like they understood that I don't need that anymore. So.
What was it that you were taking? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, I was telling you before the podcast about the one breakthrough experience I had that was really rough on me. Mm-hmm. And, I got a lot out of that. I'm glad I had that experience. But this most recent time when I took it, I didn't have a breakthrough, but it wasn't for lack of trying. We simply didn't have enough.
Yeah. So
I took all that was left. But and I was like, I was like, man, I don't think I'm gonna have enough for. And it still wasn't enough for breakthrough, but it was still like
they still get their message across. Someone that I taken it with, again, I'll just be very subtle with it, but the first one they had was very violent, and they were not happy with them as a person, is what he told me. And he said, I feel like my mom is mad and upset at me, and that I've been doing everything wrong. Like, I feel like it's my parents are just disappointed. And he was emotional. He cried right out. Like, he came out of it crying. And then he went again weeks later, and it was the exact opposite. Like, they were still stern with him to make sure he stayed on the right track, it felt like. But it wasn't as disappointed. It was more of, we're proud of you, but don't slack up. And then someone else that took it, who these all were full on 5 to 10 minute breakthroughs. Hers was actually, well, I say that hers was actually short. Hers was like 4 minutes maybe. And hers was calm, but before she did it, she was shaking, like borderline, like almost in tears from scared. But she was like, I'm doing it. She's like, I'm going to do it. She was terrified. And the whole time she said, I went in and the jester came and he like was making me laugh. But she laughed for the first minute of her trip. And she was like, he was making me laugh. And he was playing with me and showing me how he could do cool stuff. And then he took me into this big green garden. And she said a waterfall was coming from the sky. And there was somebody there who looked like one of those old Roman marble statues of a man who was standing there. She said he was picking these big fruits off of a bush and would show them to me and then make them disappear. And he would grab another one and show them to her and make them disappear. And he was like trying to get her to come grab one. And she's like, I was too scared to move. I didn't go over there and grab anything. She's like, I stood there.
Was it a masculine entity?
She said it was a man, but she said it was like, she said that when she wouldn't go over there to him, she said it wasn't because I was scared of the bush or where I was. She's like, I felt super comfortable where I was. She's like, I felt like he was God and I'm not supposed to come that close to him. She's like, she felt intimidated by his presence, not out of fear.
Just the
she didn't feel worthy to go talk to that person.
It's really interesting because this is common that when males take DMT,
they see women.
They'll see women,
and the women,
and when the women will see men.
It's the opposite of the ego, but they also catered it to her, which is the important thing. She was terrified.
And
the first thing that they did was make her laugh to break her in.
That is really cool.
And then the second thing they did, they took her somewhere peaceful and calm. And he was just showing her, hey, you can pick this fruit, and you can have this, and you can bring this back with you if you want to. And then she said that she stood there for like a day, like a whole day. And she realized that she's like, I got responsibilities at home. I have to go back. He's like, oh, do you want to go back? And she's like, yeah, I can go back. And she's like, it was a conversation they had of like, well, you can go if you want to, or you can stay. She's like, oh, I'll go. I've got stuff I got to do. And she said she remembers him escorting her in the living room and laying her on the couch. And then she came to.
This was how my third trip.
Super vivid. My third trip, I had full conversation with her and I begged to let me stay. 2 or 3 different times, I literally, if I could have been on my non-realistic knees there, I would have said, please let me stay. Do not make me go back. And every time it was, you're going to come back. But you got to go, but you're going to come back.
You're going to get here eventually.
Yeah. Every time. And it was comforting, but whenever I came to, I was so upset for about an hour. I was very upset. I was sad.
Yeah.
But that's the goal.
Don't be too sad, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get there.
Exactly.
You'll get there.
That's the goal, is to be like, if you're going to be disappointed in the fact that you have to come back here, because you know that wherever that is, you're going to go eventually again. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Whether you smoke it again or not, I think that's where
the important thing is to make the most of your time while you're here. Because now that we've all done that, we understand the significance of this life.
That's what every experience I get is, just be kind and love. Yeah. Just be better. Just be as good as you can. Just be better.
Yeah.
Which is the root of every freaking religion there is. Just give knowledge, be better, be loved, be happy. Yeah. Make everybody else's experience as good as possible. And if you have to suffer a little bit to make other people happy, then it's worth it in the end.
It's worth it. Because if
if everybody does that, then nobody's suffering.
Because at the end of the day, we're all going to be wrapped in this light.
Yeah.
So none of this matters. Yeah. Now, everything is temporary. Everything's fleeting. At the end of the day, you're going to be okay.
Yep.
You're going to be fine.
I've never felt anything but bliss, love, occasionally extreme sexual tension there. But aside from that, Jordan can mirror that with me.
Jordan's told me.
Yeah.
And sexual is the wrong word, but that's what it comes off to us because we're human.
It's the only thing you compare.
Yeah, that's the only word we have.
Language that we have for it.
Like you come out and your wiener is still vibrating after you've been sober for 10 minutes.
You know, I really wish I'd had that experience, but I haven't.
It's
I met
almost
an old Asian lady.
almost intimidating. It's almost scary. Like, what the fuck were they doing to me? What were they doing to you? Like, I was 10 minutes out and my dick was still like, I was like, what is wrong?
You know, something else I've noticed. Everyone, except one, everyone I've talked to about DMT has had a lot to say about it, about their experience. Except, do you remember when Carrie took it?
Yes.
All Carrie had to say when she came out of it was it was a carnival.
Good gestures.
Yeah, I remember her saying that, yeah.
And I think she just kind of got it, that it's like the ego is trying to grasp what happened and bring back something. Because something I get stuck in is when I'm there, or the one time I've been there, I wanted to like, it's like, what am I going to tell Jordan when I get back?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to tell Jordan and Carter about like what happened? And I think that is a very limiting aspect of it's my ego. I have to kill that next time I go in. But something I noticed is she didn't have hardly anything to say about it, and it's such a profound thing. You would think that, like, why wouldn't you have something to say about it?
Well, that was the girl I was just
But
telling you about too. She came out of it and she said, first thing she said, she sat up and was like coughing a little bit, and she said, I don't think anything really happened to me. And then we all kind of laughed because like I just watched you twitch and unconsciously and do the gulp, the gulp that everybody does.
Just happened.
Yeah, I watched you just do that for 5 minutes, and then about 10 minutes later, she stood up and got a drink and came back and sat down, and she was like, what about this? And then just unloaded the whole thing on me. And I was like, what do you mean nothing happened? I was like, that was beautiful. They catered that just for you.
Well,
but you had to dig that out of her.
Yeah. She had to take a second and recognize, well, I wasn't dreaming. Like, I wasn't actually asleep. I didn't just dream that shit. Like, that is what happened. Mm-hmm. I thought that was something that already happened because that's the way your mind is still thinking.
An older man had done it around us. I'm not sure exactly how old he was. I think he was somewhere in the range of 75 to 80.
Whoa.
And he had done it. He wanted to ever since he had first heard about it. He said, I've done everything under the sun. And, he was an old hippie type guy, and he said, this is something that I've been dreaming about going to, a place that I've been dreaming to going to ever since I first started delving into psychedelics. Mm-hmm. And when he went, he came out and he was in tears. And he didn't say much about it. He didn't say hardly anything. Actually, he didn't say anything about it. I still have no idea what he experienced there at all, but he was in tears. Something had struck him that he had needed to know his entire life. And
before he went, he had to know it.
Before he died, he needed to know it in this realm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he found it.
That's wow.
And it took him so many years, and he had never delved down the route of meditation.
How fucking lucky are we that we found this so young?
Oh my God. The first time I did it, it was utter shock that somehow this is a secret. Like, how has this been a secret?
Yeah, exactly.
Why isn't this like a common thing I can go buy at Walgreens?
Because it's too good.
Yeah, it takes 5 minutes out of your day. If you want to unpack all the shit, it takes 2 hours out of your day. 5 minutes for the trip. The rest is for you to bring your shit back together.
What the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
But it's the most calming, self-fulfilling, loving thing that you will ever do. It gives you every aspect of every religion that you'll ever need, and reminds you that, hey man, at the end when it's over, it's going to be all right.
Everyone's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It can cure anxiety. I guarantee you it can cure anxiety and depression. I know that in the UK, or I'm going to say the UK, somewhere in Europe, because I heard not Robert Schock, Graham Hancock talking about it. They're using it as an antidepressant to cure depression and PTSD.
Mushrooms too.
Yeah, because it truly does. It's so therapeutic.
And the thing about it is, it's not like other types of drugs where you seem to hear people talking about it and it's amazing, it's so great.
Yeah.
It is the opposite of addictive.
Yeah.
And something that you want to continue to go back to.
Yeah. As good as the experience has been, it would take so much mental preparation to go right now.
That's what's funny is we can explain how profound these experiences are, but it's like, is this something you do every day?
Fuck no.
No, like absolutely not.
Hell no.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe a few times in my lifetime, but
it's like if you find somebody that has a problem with addiction, or a problem where they get addicted to things that are miraculous, painkillers, they make you feel incredible. So people take painkillers or, sleeping pills or something, it can
this made you want to quit smoking, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it did. And
we have a mutual friend that they told him, they kicked him out of his trip when he was under, and we won't say the name, we both know who it is. He was doing a lot of bad drugs and was kicking it and then falling back into it repeatedly. And he was doing tobacco and stuff on top of that. And he went and they're like, get yourself clean. You're done. And kicked him out of his trip.
I've talked to people who
that's insane.
heavily addicted to meth that have told me that cigarettes were worse.
Oh God, dude.
And I'm
I tried
seriously?
to smoke. I haven't
Holy
smoked in I
shit.
don't know how long. I mean, I have this. But.
Well, one of the issues is like cigarettes are sold in every convenience store.
Yeah.
I mean, you
can't
can
get
go
away
down the street and you can just pick up a pack of cigarettes. You can get pulled over by a cop.
Smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, smoking a cigarette. There's no regulation on it. If you are just willing to do it, you can do it. And that's not the same
for you.
And it's the worst thing. And it's not regulated
Population
the way that it should be.
They want us to.
That's why that's
legal. They want the weak genes to die off.
Tobacco's legal. Psilocybin and DMT are illegal.
Because those are eye-opening. Tobacco is life-ending, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
It's about control.
To quote Terrence McKenna, the only danger of DMT is dying of astonishment.
Which is so true.
It's so fucking true.
It's so true.
Dude, really good impression.
What do you say? He's like, you can watch an alien spaceship land on the White House lawn and think, well, I've seen better.
Yes. Which is so true.
It is so fucking
It is so
true.
true. If a spaceship landed in the backyard right now,
We all see weird
If Martians
we've
slot
all
kicked our
seen-
door,
we've
I'm
already
like,
seen weirder shit.
yeah.
We've seen beyond the physical.
Yeah.
That's like there's a Hunter S. Thompson quote where he's like, something I've learned about life is reality is way stranger than anyone's fucking imagination.
Fuck yeah, man. Okay, imagine you write a book. Okay, imagine this. Storyline for a book or movie. The person lives in society where the government has banned the God particle, the God chemical that lets them talk to their maker, and are enslaving them into giving them cancer so that they can constantly create the natural resources and extract them from the earth so that they can continue to do what they want to do. And those that break away from the civilization that ingest this God particle know that at the end of the tunnel, what happens? That's the fucking book. Like all you gotta do is just change some names of towns and around, and that's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a storyline for a movie. But that's the shit that's actually happening.
That's what we're living in.
That's literally it. And we
Yeah.
sound like such fucking hippies because we want people to
Fuck it.
experience greatness.
Yeah.
That's what's sad. Is
I
that
don't give a fuck.
I know. I don't care anymore either.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
Jordan, we know you stopped caring. Your hair's beautiful.
I just fuck it, man.
yeah, I wonder if Jordan's a hippie.
Yeah. I
No.
wonder, man.
Dude,
Yeah, man.
I almost started calling you Giannis whenever you had your beard out. I miss that shit. His beard was beautiful. God damn. I came out of my trip. I'm like, is that Noah?
Dude, when I came out of my trip, Jordan was there too. And I'm like, he looks like a lion. Which Jordan's a Leo.
Yeah.
Which
is funny
what's your
because-
person?
I'm a Libra.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Heavenly scales.
Yeah. That's the
Really, all
difference.
that is it's the male prostitute of the zodiac signs. That's what it says. Every time I fucking read it, it's like you like to whore around. I'm like, fair enough.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Jordan's over here with his fucking sex hips. Yet I'm the one getting flack on the God charts.
Oh my god. Dude.
Young Johnny Depp.
What the
I think I might call this episode "Sex Hips."
Oh my god, dude.
Unless you guys find a better name.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fuck, man. Well, we've covered some serious ground. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I mean,
no.
I've got so
There's so
much.
much.
We could, because if we want,
Fuck it, if you guys want to, we can go for another hour. I don't give a fuck.
I have to end up getting home. So
Yeah.
if it wasn't for me having my dog and somebody waiting on me.
Yeah, why don't we just do this?
We'll do it
another time?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I say. We have a whole nother episode.
I would
where
love
this
to have you
shit
guys on again. That'd be great.
Hell yeah. Next time, because I didn't have much preparation. Jordan told me about it the other day. And I was like, fuck, ask him if I can come. I'd love it.
I'm really glad you came, man.
Oh, I fucking had a great time. Next time I can go back to my deep corners of YouTube and get my brain back and pumped up into ship shop shape.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, we've been going for like probably almost going 2 hours, probably.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll see you guys at some point in the future, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, and check out his ghost hunting channel. Link below.
Below.
Definitely do that.
Thank you for the subs in advance. Thank you.
Everyone have a good night, and remember that at the end, everything's going to be okay. Even though you're scared and nothing makes sense, everything is going to be fine.
Absolutely.
Namaste.